So part of what we heard there from Mick Wright was that free speech was under threat. And again, he said it's not free speech isn't under threat from leftists or from other particular minority groups. It's under threat from the government and from the Metropolitan Police. And I agree fully with that statement. You know who doesn't agree with that statement, though? People on the right wing. They don't agree with that statement. If you watch my previous clip that I put on YouTube about Lawrence Fox wanting to use defamation law to try and silence any critics of him, essentially this is a slap suits, so strategic lawsuits against public participation, there is a threat to free speech in this country, and it, by definition, is when the state uses the force of the law to be able to stop you from saying things that you want to be able to say. Now, we don't actually, fun enough, we don't actually have free speech enshrined in any kind of constitution. We don't even have a written constitution in this country. But fundamentally, issues of free speech are around the power of the state to be able to silence you. It is unfortunately not people banning you on Twitter, having to delete your tweets because they violate the Twitter rules, for example, or having your TikTok account banned. These are not free speech issues, right? It may be unfortunate, but I'm not a fan of capitalism. But under capitalism, private companies have the ability to be able to do what they want when you have deigned to use private platforms that they own and control. So if you break the TOS, that's your own fault. But apparently, rightoids are finding the fact that leftists are being arrested by the state and literally arrested and thrown in jail just for saying that they dislike the monarchy. In the wake of the Public Order Bill, which is a grotesque infringement on the freedom to protest, which is a cornerstone of liberal democracy. There's a My R2C segment that we're going to react to now about how anti-free speech laws have backfired on leftists. It'll be interesting to see if he agrees with me that these laws are anti-free speech, which would be, quite frankly, would be a little bit of a higher acceptance of the fact that these are anti-free speech. Unlike, for example, Lee Anderson, 30p Lee, who's come out and said that that he agrees with these protesters being arrested because if you dislike the monarchy, you should leave the country instead of protesting, which of course is the solution to everything, right? If your car breaks down, you don't fix it, you buy a new car. That's how that always works, right? This one's run out of petrol as well. So turns out there are plenty of people on the right who aren't even acknowledging that what's happening here is a restriction of press freedom, of free speech, of basic rights within a liberal democracy. So we shall see whether or not he agrees with this. His segment is called Anti-Free Speech Law Backfires on Leftists, and he's even done the laugh crying emoji, like the boomer that he is, at least at heart. So let's see what he has to say.
Yesterday, during the coronation, the political left discovered something fascinating. Yes, the anti-free speech laws and restrictions on protests that they've been promoting for the past few years massively backfired on them.
What? When did we promote these laws? The left have been the ones entirely fighting against these laws. What are you talking about? When has the political left ever supported the Public Order Bill? When have we ever supported the removal of the freedom to protest? What? This is nonsense. Yeah, what planet is he on? Right, this is a completely different angle that he's going with. Obviously I've not pre-watched the content. I live react to everything first time. But this is not an angle that I was expecting him to go with. I wasn't expecting him to say, well, actually, the left love the Public Order Bill. Big fans of Priti Patel, big fans of Suella Braverman, leftists, I'll have you know.
Hello, ladies and...
But if you are unaware who this is My R2C, someone with 286,000 subscribers. And here's me, little old me with 2.5k. So if you like this content, please share it with your friends. And subscribe if you're not already.
And gentlemen, and welcome to the channel that challenges the mainstream media and the political establishment, from the left-wing nutters to the globalist elite. Okay, let's talk about
the globalists. Maya?
Coronation. Well, what happened during the coronation and afterwards. Fascinatingly enough, the political left realized that all these anti-free speech restrictions and the police rules against protests, which is quite accurate, that the protest rules are usually sensible. It's the police that don't really enforce them properly. They have one rule for BLM.
So he does agree with curtailing the right to free speech because he thinks that the anti-protest rules are fair and just. So he's actually just completely demented. From the left to the elite, quote unquote, in Echo posting. Yeah, incredible stuff. Yeah, it's definitely no dog whistles to see here whatsoever.
protesters, another rule for anti-lockdown protesters. That's a whole different point. But all these restrictions that the political left have been promoting for the past few years, especially on free speech. Well,
Where did we promote anti-protest laws? Where have we ever? To be fair, to give him some credit, I agree with his position around the anti-lockdown protests laws, that we curtailed the right of people to protest the lockdown enforcement. Right? They should have absolutely had the rights to be able to congregate, to be able to protest anti-lockdown. And I think it was heavy-handed of the police to have curtailed that in the way that they are now curtailing anti-monarchists, right? So that's one thing that I'll give him credit for here. But were leftists the ones saying this? Or was it fucking, centrists and liberals and even right-wingers as well? Right? Or is literally everybody outside of his tiny little fucking kind of pseudo-libertarian but also pro-authoritarian bubble? Is there the new right in this country have a very strange and incoherent ideology.
It massively backfired on them, didn't it, yesterday? So obviously, it's still a free country. You can protest. You have free speech to an extent. You can't make controversial.
Yeah, he has to caveat his statement here by saying to an extent. Well, you can't protest in a way that causes a nuisance, which is literally every protest, right? If a protest isn't disruptive or a nuisance, then it's not a protest at all, is it?
Jokes, but you can say, "Not my king." You can't even wear a T-shirt saying "Abolish the monarchy." But there are very simple restrictions or rules around protests. You can't just randomly go on a plane or inside some sort of institution without any permission to protest. During the coronation, the same applied, because there were a number of Republicans who were trying to disrupt the ceremony. Some of the Extinction Rebellion lot were saying that
the members of the actual group Republic weren't the ones wanting to disrupt the ceremony. In fact, they had a pre-planned protest. They had discussed with the Metropolitan Police before the event even had taken place. Right? They had reached some kind of understanding with the Met about what the protest was going to consist of, where it was going to be, and everything. Days before, right? This has been agreed with the police, and people still got arrested before the event had even taken place. Right, so the idea that this would ability to freely go and protest whenever you want, or within certain restrictions, even when following the restrictions, they were still arrested.
Get on the mall and block the road and all the nonsense.
And we saw that with the death of the Queen as well, where genuinely people with blank paper signs getting potentially arrested by the police on the grounds that they then might write something on it, which is crazy to think about. The Public Order Bill is absolutely a curtailing of free speech and the democratic right to protest.
So the police were on top of it, saying, if you want to protest, you can protest, just go to the other side, go somewhere else. But the political...
That's not what they did. That's literally not what they did. Even people who followed that advice still got arrested. Just Stop Oil had their offices raided before a protest had even taken place. They were having a workshop on other things. And they got arrested. They had their offices raided so that they could be arrested. And then there was the people who, at 2 a.m., before the event had even started, members of, as we'd seen before, from the night watch there to be able to hand out rape alarms to women who are at risk of sexual assault, they were arrested by the police for the potential that they might then cause a future nuisance. So this is the real issue, right? Is that even protesters who haven't been disruptive yet or a nuisance yet are getting arrested on grounds that they may in future cause disruption or a nuisance based on essentially no information or no intimation that they might do that at all, right? Just on the blind suspicion of whatever the police feel like doing that day. How is that free speech? Come on.
The left had a meltdown saying, well, that's it, free speech is banned. But yeah, you want it to be banned. Now that it's happening to you, it's bad.
Okay, so I'm assuming what's going to happen when I tag my R2C on the segment that I upload later on the channel. People are going to flood in the comments going, no, you leftists love these anti-free speech laws, people arrested for just saying the wrong thing or protesting in the wrong way. I'm like, find me evidence of this. Show me evidence of a genuine leftist saying this, rather than just fucking, centrist liberals saying it. Come on. There's no... Again, he's not brought up any evidence for this at all.
Protests are banned. Well, it's not. You can just move it somewhere else. And this is the end of the world as we know it. And they were carrying posters of Meghan Markle saying she's the Princess of Hearts. Not my king. This country is ours. Okay, fair enough. Now, they had a bit of a meltdown on social media. We've had so many social media posts, such as but actually, before we get to that, Lee Anderson said in response to the protest, saying, "Not my king?" Question mark. If you do not wish to live in a country that has a monarchy, the solution is not to turn up with your silly boards. The solution is to emigrate. And I was
Yeah, that's true. Again, no policy changes are ever allowed. What we actually need to do is have the entire world should just be changed into countries that adhere to every single specific ideology that exists, and then you choose which country to live on based upon that country's designated ideology. And if you disagree, the only option is to leave. We don't change any of the laws; they stay the same forever. We get rid of all elections because that would change something. You're not allowed to change anything or want anything to be changed. It has to stay the same forever. And the only option that you've got is to leave the country. Especially not when you don't have the right to peacefully protest and the Met will crack down on you. This doesn't make any sense. This is completely nonsensical.
was saying it the whole day yesterday. I said, anybody in central London who kept saying, "Ooh, we don't want this country," like, you can move to France. You can, if you want. If you want Republic.
I mean, to be fair, Maya, if you want to pay, right? If you want to pay for me to move to France, actually Portugal, I would rather, right? If you want to pay me to leave the country and move to Portugal, feel free. Unfortunately, I can't afford to do that because I don't have enough money because of the fact that wages have been depressed in this country for the last 13 years. But if you want to pay, right? If you want to say, I will pay for a free ticket for anyone who hates Britain to go and live in some other country, feel free. I am open to taking your money to move me to Portugal, where I almost certainly will be happier than I am now.
And nonsensical riots every single weekend, go to France. So, anyway, the problem with this was that the political left were posting these things saying, so
get up,
they clamped down on the protest.
I'm opposed to what you're doing.
Kevin Logan with the raid of 55. Welcome, Kevin Logan viewers. We are covering a My Artusi video called Anti-Free Speech Law Backfires on Leftists, because apparently we were big fans of the Public Order Bill. Apparently we were cheering for the Public Order Bill, according to Mr. Tusi. Very, very strange. This weekend. What's also weird, I find out about every single right-wing pundit at the moment on YouTube and social media, on all these other platforms, for example, they all seem to not have any charisma, yet loads of subscribers. And I know full well, right, I've done the research on this. My Artusi is not one of these, like, astroturfed people, like Darren Grimes or Jess Gill or Reem Ibrahim or whatever it might be, for example. I know he's not astroturfed. He is crowd-funded. This guy is built his platform himself off of donations from individuals. He's not being given loads of money by, shady individuals to get to the position that he's been in. This guy's got fucking 286k YouTube subscribers whilst not even having, like, basic charisma. What's going on? What's happening? What world have I stumbled into?
That were trying to disrupt the Mall, and they took their signs and placards and everything else. Someone said a truck with "Not My King" protest signs was confiscated by the police at the coronation because free speech isn't allowed in England. You could have just taken it to the other side and protest, but okay. It's the coronation.
But those were specifically there for the pre-planned protest that was agreed between Republic and the Met before going ahead. That's literally why people are angry at the moment. Because even within the draconian anti-free speech laws that we have for the Public Order Bill, even within those laws which were being specifically trying to be adhered to by Republic in conjunction with the Met Police, it still got raided and people still got arrested. That's the issue that people have with this. Again, obviously, you can't expect people like the right wing to ever bother thinking about basic things like, I don't know, facts, looking up what actually went on at these events, rather than just seeing something on Twitter and creating headlines about it, right? Unfortunately, right-wingers tend to have a really difficult relationship with the truth, so I can understand why he might not want to actually go into looking what actually happened here.
As head of state, you have to have security, basic security. There are a number of very important people who are attending that event. Now, Peter Shearer said, are we still allowed to tweet, "Not my king"? Or are we all going to be imprisoned for free speech? What a country we have become. All to stop the real change that we need. Now they care about free speech. Now they...
Yeah, exempt, because the people who are the ones attacking free speech are the right wing with their anti-protest laws. Like, again, I understand that the right wingers have tried to create this new version of free speech where it means being allowed to say whatever you want on any platform that you want without your account being deleted or having your post deleted by a moderator. Where they genuinely think that the real attack on free speech is the fact that, people at some university students' union don't think that their money should be going to fund people they have fundamental ideological disagreements with. No, that is the real attack on free speech as far as they're concerned. People being disinvited from speaking at universities. But the power of the state being used to silence people for saying things that the state disagrees with, that's not a free speech issue. That's just the Prince King Charles having security. And also, it's always fun. They always try to find like random nobody tweets. Like, imagine if they pulled up some like my tweets, right? When I get like 50 likes on like even one of my good tweets only gets 50 likes. And trying to claim that this is indicative of the wider viewpoints coming from an entire political ideology doesn't make any sense.
They realize that all these rules that they've been promoting and advocating for the past few years is now hugely backfiring on them. So you remember when you were saying that we shouldn't be allowed to make edgy jokes because words.
No one said that they should be banned by the state. No one is saying that people should be arrested for saying edgy jokes. No one ever said that they should be against the fucking law. Nobody said that the police should be used to detain those who say jokes outside the realm of what is deemed culturally acceptable. But what we did say, and what we have said continually, and what I am saying now, is that there should be social consequences for saying jokes that are insensitive. Right? There is again, these people genuinely believe that if they went to their mate's house for dinner, right, and it was with their mate's parents, and they called both of their mate's parents fucking bellends, that they should not have any reproachment for that, because otherwise it'd be an infringement on their free speech. I can't believe you're kicking me out of your nice dinner because I called your parents bellends. This is an attack on my free speech. No, we want to... Again, no one was calling to ban them using the power of the state, which again is the definition of free speech, rather than they were saying that there should be cultural ramifications and social ramifications for breaking the social contract like that, right? Again, when, for example, you have a look at Jerry Sadowitz having his tour cancelled because first of all, he was racist to Rishi Sunak, and then second of all, he got his dick out and waved it in a woman's face, and then he had a couple of tour dates cancelled for it. That was those private institutions deciding who they were free to want to associate with. At no point was he being arrested for indecent exposure or for breaching the peace, which is what leftists get exposed for, what leftists would get arrested for. Sorry, the breaching the peace, betraying the pub by infringing on the public order bill by being a nuisance or being too disruptive. That is actual violation of free speech, not people saying an edgy joke and then being disinvited from some university or having their future comedy show cancelled by a private venue deciding that they don't want to be associated with you. Again, this is nonsensical, completely nonsensical.
Harm people or whatever, they're painful. Well, maybe we could now use your own rules against yourself, saying if you say "not my king" outside the palace, there will be some pro-monarchists there and their feelings will get hurt. So technically, words hurt. See, we can do...
Yeah, and if monarchists don't want to be friends with you, right, because you're a Republican, or if some venue doesn't want to host your show because you're doing a pro-Republican thing, like if you're booking at some establishment that's very pro-royal for some reason as a Republican, and they decide to not have your event go ahead because you're a Republican, that's their fucking right to freedom not to associate with you as a Republican. No one's asking them to be arrested, right? Monarchists are not duty-bound to be friends with every single Republican. In the same way that no anti-racist is under duress to continue to be friends with people who tell racist jokes. This is such a ridiculous... So he is not only going for the line that apparently we on the left love the public order bill, but he is going with the line that I expected him to before reacting to the video, which was that somehow having, your tweets deleted by Twitter moderators is somehow analogous to literally being arrested and thrown in jail just for saying you're English.
Do the same thing. Another person said, "This is unacceptable. English draconian monarchist Tory dictatorship." Legitimate protesters arrested for inoffensive words, "not my king." You do not get arrested for "not my king" words. You could have just said it in a different area on a different day. UK no longer a democracy. Free speech gagged by fascism. Firstly,
it's like people keep calling this fascism. It's not fascism, it's authoritarianism. These are two different things. Please stop calling things that aren't fascism. Just call it authoritarianism, because otherwise all you do, by saying that when Republicans or left-wing leaning people get prosecuted for protest or whatever, or have their freedom of speech curtailed, right, under authoritarian, draconian law, definitely both of those, that's not fascism. That's the same way how people like, I don't know, other right-wing groups would try and say that them being victims of authoritarianism is somehow left-wing fascism, which is not obviously not a thing that exists. So just call it authoritarianism because that's what it is, right? Call it draconian, but it's not fascism.
We don't have direct democracy. We never had it. It's called representative democracy. It's indirect democracy. So don't claim that we were some sort of socialist utopia. Anyway, some person called...
What does socialism have to do with any of this? What's going on? What am I watching? This is very strange. This is a strange man.
Said concerning how people are getting arrested for holding a sign, nor are we allowed to say "not my king." Free speech doesn't exist in the UK anymore. Again, that's not why you are being arrested, but okay, fair enough. If you want to spin the message. Aaron Bastani of Novara.
That's true. I mean, it's very true that there are plenty of people saying, "Oh, you can't say anything anymore," whatever. But at least be accurate in calling out the police for what's been going on and for calling out the actual text of the public order bill and the way that it curtails freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. Because a lot of this is actually less a case of free speech and more a case of freedom of assembly. But, these things are mostly intertwined in a set of personal freedoms that you should have access to within a functioning liberal democracy, which we obviously don't have anymore. But some things are free speech, some are freedom of association, some are freedom of assembly, which really and truly freedom of assembly is what is being curtailed the most here, as well as consequently the other two as well.
Our media said, we need free speech enshrined in a written constitution that guarantees liberties for all citizens under the law. Oh, join the dark side, Aaron Bastani. Come on, join us. We've been saying that for the past few years. Now they understand what we've been talking about all this time. Actually, they don't.
So, yeah, when you have your edgy posts deleted, when you have your edgy jokes, removed by a Twitter moderator, Maya, that happens in the United States, where they have the First Amendment, where they have the right to free speech protected in a written constitution. If we did that in the UK, you would still have your posts deleted on Twitter and on Facebook, right? All the things that Rightords have been complaining about, censorship and the death of free speech because of social media moderation, which is basically what they're talking about, which is what they're talking about by people being disinvited to campuses, for example, when they talk about people having their shows cancelled, for example. That is not protected by the fucking First Amendment, in the same way that it wouldn't be protected under what Aaron Bastani was saying there about having free speech protected within a written constitution in the United Kingdom as well. Did you basic understanding of the First Amendment here from Mr. Pro-Free Speech, apparently.
I don't understand. They're only understanding short term because they're having some problems right now. Because they've been arrested. Because they said, not my king. Absolutely idiotic people. Anyway, just wanted to show you the hypocrisy of the political left that was exposed during the coronation. I'm Maya 2C, and we are the media.
Yeah, apparently hypocrisy is when you think that having moderation tools on social media is good, but when you think that people's basic rights to protest in a liberal democracy being curtailed is bad. That's the real hypocrisy here. That's the most hypocritical thing that you can possibly do. Wild. But if you enjoyed this content, you can like and subscribe. You can support me by becoming a member on YouTube for just 99p, or subscribing on Twitch for $3.99, or for free with Twitch Prime, or by making bits messages with text-to-speech on. If you're watching this live, or later you can drop me bits if you're watching this, or join on. I have a Patreon now. You can join on Patreon if you really want. Patreon.com/NoJusticeMTG if you want to give me money in a other different way than my other platforms.